Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cosmic Owl Astrology. I am Louise Edington, the Cosmic Owl of Cosmic Owl Astrology, your wisdom weaver and cyberpunk priestess witch of the stars. And welcome back to all you chihuahuas in little purses yapping at me with your thumbs down and things. Thanks for feeding the algorithms. Love you. But also welcome back to all of those of you that leave lovely comments, lovely respectful comments, and also ask respectful questions if you have questions about things I post. Anyway, so here we are. I'm going to talk about the Libra New Moon that is coming up on October the 21st. Kathy Beale and I looked at that Libra New Moon a bit in not the last political video we did, but the one before, because that's the day that Virginia Giuffre's book is being released on Amazon. She is one of the accusers and survivors, or she was a survivor until she took her own life, of Jeffrey Epstein, and she was the person who had a photograph with Prince Andrew, if you remember. Anyway, that's not going away, that issue. So yeah, release those files, please. I'm just moving a post-it. All right, so let's dive in. But before we do, I'm just going to pull a card for that new moon. And then, as usual, we will take a quick look at the chart. I'll look at the numerology as well, and at the end we'll look at the symbols, then I'll do a full reading on the card. But actually I think this new moon deserves 3 cards, so bear with me. I'm just going to shuffle and pull the cards. 28 degrees Libra, this new moon. Oh, I love the first card. Oh, even better. All right, the Dancer. This is Ariadne in the cards, and well, just look at her, just dancing with that joy. But we'll give a full reading at the end. This is the Goddess of Discs, or bird, in the Red Threads Tarot. Birds are generally messengers, so we'll look at that as well. And then I got a reversed card, the Fall. I have opinions about that. I think we probably all know what the fall is, right? It's, said where, Eve got the apple from the snake and humans fell, and things like that. It's a very punishing Christian myth. But anyway, I have opinions about why that's reversed. And interestingly, on that note, I'm going to actually just tell you about a video I just came across this morning. And it's not even on a channel that I usually would watch. And it's one of those, it's a bit AI generated. And it says, Edgar Cayce, he was the sleeping prophet, warned us Trump wouldn't last and USA will be shocked. Now, if you're interested in listening to it, it's on a site called Band Wisdom. I don't even subscribe to them, but it getting the fall reversed kind of reminded me of his prophecy, which is not, I'm not even sure is an actual prophecy, because a lot of so-called experts have said no, it's not, and some say it is. But anyway, it was interesting anyway that messaging came into my consciousness today. So I am recording this on Saturday, the 11th of October, so 10 days before the new moon. Tomorrow I am doing a presentation on my book series in astrology for Houston Astrological Society. It's just $25 if you want to come and hear me talk more about Ceres. I'm also doing a presentation for Kepler College in December the 13th on Ceres also. And early in the next year, I'm going to put my own workshop on about it, so we can go in depth with Ceres in your own chart. But watch this space for that. But if anybody is interested in signing up for the Houston Astrological Society's presentation, you can go to their website, which is Houston Astrology Society. If you just Google that, you'll find it, or I'll put the link in the description. I'll try to remember. Okay, so let's have a quick look. Actually, let me talk about this new moon a little bit, look at the numbers, then we'll dive in. So this is a 28-degree Libra new moon. Now, 28 is supposedly a very, very strong number. It's a number of natural born leadership. It's a number of optimization, efficiency, and leadership principles. Okay. It's often said to be a kind of a power, strategy, and competitive sense. Strong leader with a lot of knowledge and perfectionism. Good at seeing group behavior to see what's the best way forward. These are all kind of few things. Unbalanced 28 can be that kind of heartless corporate energy, bringing conflicts and lawsuits and being very critical of others. But let's kind of just look at keywords, number 28 keywords. This helpful, friendly, winner mentality, millionaire number, business sense, strategic, positive, optimistic, lucky, self-reliant, strong-willed, many ideas, creative, honor, spark of life, full of initiative, but can be perfectionistic. Now then, 2 plus 8 makes a 10. So 2, first of all, is the number of the divine feminine. 8 is the number of infinity, balance, and strength, but also it's said to be the money number. But 2 plus 8 equals 1. And it actually equals 10. So 10 comes down to the ones, but 10 has the 1 and the 0, which signifies the completion of a cycle and the beginning of a new one, embodying perfection and unity. All right. So, you know, these numbers have multiple kinds of meanings. So I just take what resonates for you and come back for the rest. All right. So before we look at the chart, let's look at some Libra keywords, because this is a very Libra new moon. The guide for the new moon, Venus, is in Libra as well. Now, Venus always travels quite closely to the sun. It never gets more than 47 degrees away from the sun, either side. But it is a strong Libra moon because we have the sun and moon in Libra and Venus in Libra. But let's have a look at the energy of Libra and then we'll look at the chart. So it's diplomatic, it's cooperative, it's charming and charismatic, fair-minded, which has a very strong sense of justice and equality, social, artistic, aesthetic, appreciates beauty, style, and design. Libra is usually very gracious. I have a really good Libra friend. She is a really gracious person and intelligent, very quick-witted often, and clever. And at its healthiest is very balanced. Libra seeks equilibrium and order. But Libra is also the sign of peace and war because, you know, unbalanced, the scales can be like fighting over things. So in on the less positive side, Libra can be indecisive, finds it difficult to make choices, can be conflict avoidant, okay, and can be people pleasing, just kind of wants to smooth things over, make things nice, peace, but can also hold grudges and can fall into patterns of self-pity. Now, harmony, justice, relationships, beauty, it's an air sign and the symbol is the scales of balance. And of course, as I mentioned, sorry, excuse me. as I mentioned, Venus is the guide for Libra. Now, if we go to Jessica Davidson's wonderful site for keywords, I'm going to give you some more keywords for Libra. So Libra is also about adjustment, adaptability. It's also very congenial, but it's also about conciliation, consideration. I think I said cooperation, diplomacy. Often dislikes crudeness. It's kind of, Kathy Beale loves to call it the social, or Venus, the ruling, the guide is the social director of the planet. Is very elegant, fair, frivolous, welcoming, thoughtful, can be superficial, fence sitting. You get the idea, I think, for this. It's usually very polite and very pleasing. I have one of my wonderful children is a Scorpio, really strong Scorpio with Libra rising, and she is really pleasing in nature with her rising sign. But it belies that strength, that strong Scorpio underneath. Not to say she's awful. Now I'm going to give you some words for Venus as well, because it's a Venus guided new moon, and it's a very well. There's another reason why it's a really strong Venusian new moon. Venus, you may know I've worked with Venus for a long time. Venus, I work with the Venus cycle and the Venus star point, where Venus and the Sun meet every 9.5 months. And so I've really deepened my understanding of Venus throughout the years. And so I'm going to just read all my keywords for Venus. So Venus is love, harmony, values, relatedness, intimacy, desire, the pleasure urge, the creative urge, the need for connection and emotional expression, compromise, self-worth, sociability, money, arts, closeness, charm, eroticism, finances, sensuality, attraction to or what we attract, aesthetic tastes, how we love and feel loved, can be seen as your love language, allure, diplomacy, sensory pleasures, magnetism, at-one-ment, which actually spells atonement, tranquility, but also Venus can also be indecisive, overindulgence, self-indulgent, vain, lazy, stubborn, possessive, immoral, greedy, dependent, inconsistent, and narcissistic. Now, Venus also covers social contracts, unwritten rules, pleasantries, manners, unpleasantries, lack of manners. Retrogrades can also bring scandals, or rather revealing of scandals, or infidelities and lack of integrity, and changing social values. Changes in tastes and distastes in aesthetics, music, fashion, and art. So you get the idea of the whole Venusian side, and don't let anybody tell you that Venus is pure sugar. Venus is a really strong planet, and this is a really strong, as I said, Venusian new moon. So let's look at the chart, and I'll go through some of the things we're going to talk about. Then I'll stop and I'll talk about it, and then we will go back to the card and read you the Sabian and Chandra symbols and Omega symbols for this new moon. So here is the new moon, 28 degrees Libra. Now, the first thing I want to say is that on October the 22nd, 2022, lots of twos, we had a Venus star point at 29 Libra. And that was a really strong star point too. And why that was special was that Venus star points go backwards through the signs in a 5-pointed star pattern. Can't teach you the whole Venus star on this new moon video, but If you come and do my Venus retrograde classes, you get more of it, and you could read Venus Star Rising, which is Ariel Gutman's book. It's in my Amazon store. But Venus star points travel backwards through the signs, and they spend just over 100 years in a sign, and then they disappear when, say, so this one is moving into Libra, okay, back from Scorpio. Now we do have one more Scorpio star point left to have before we're fully in the Libra star point, and then there'll be no more Scorpio star points. So Scorpio goes back into Libra, and then we'll be under a Libra star point as one of the Venus star points for just over 100 years. And Libra being an air sign, this really kind of coincides with the great mutation of Jupiter and Saturn that was at 0 Aquarius, that set 200 years of Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions in air signs too. We really are entering the age of air. And that star point back in October of 2022 began that 100 years of the Venus star point in Libra, and this new moon is conjunct that point. So, think back to October of 2022 of what's been coming up, what's been occurring for you. There may be some resonance, some kind of echoes of things that started back then. Okay. And so here is the new moon. It's square to Jupiter. It's opposing Chiron and Eris over here in Aries. And I think that's it for the squares. Let me just check all the aspects. It's also widely square Pluto. So really it's kind of forming this Grand Cross. So it's a strong new moon because it's making some very dynamic aspects to drive us forward. And how interesting that we have a ceasefire in Israel and Gaza. Hope it sticks as this new moon is approaching, and how apt that book's coming out. The other things that, the other aspects, so we have Saturn and Neptune still really traveling together, but Neptune is in a supportive aspect of opportunity to Uranus, and they are making the new moon the focal point of a finger of fate or destiny, a yod. Really, that is pointing at this new moon, even though it's out of sign, saying this is an important new moon. They're also pointing at Haumea, regeneration. So there's a lot of endings and beginnings on this new moon as well. So, and it's another destiny point. Okay. Other aspects are, it's widely square Pallas Athena. I kind of count that. And it is also, is it? I don't count that one. So yeah, I think I've given you all the main aspects that I consider important. Okay, so but other things I'm going to talk about when we are talking about this is that this is the guide. I mentioned that Venus is in Libra. Venus is still really opposing Ceres. If you've read my Ceres book, you will know that Venus and Ceres have, this resonance together. Venus, Ceres, and Pluto having met a couple of times at 0 degrees last December at 0 Aquarius. But also they are very much kind of about the maiden, mother crone energy, that loss of innocence energy, that great mothering, and the learning to love yourself energy. There's a lot going on there with Venus and Ceres. Venus and Ceres are still opposing each other, past exact on this new moon, but Ceres is retrograding to 2 Aries, which is where Venus and the Sun met on March the 22nd of this year for this morning star Venus star point that we are under at the moment. So they are kind of working together. But these two in opposition form a cardinal grand cross to Hygeia in Cancer. This is preventative health hygiene. She's kind of a seer, and I'll talk more about this. And this is Pholus in Capricorn. Cause and effect, Pandora's box, the lid comes off. We're seeing the cause and effect of a lot of past actions now. So we've kind of got two cardinal grand crosses in many ways, or at least this is a cardinal square. And cardinal signs, which are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, are initiating signs. They are starting new things. And so this is a new moon and a big one. So endings and beginnings. So, okay, we looked at the numbers and we've looked at the meaning of Libra. So this new moon and Libra at this 28-degree mark is a really strong one. This in the square to Jupiter in Cancer is really giving it a really strong push forward. And this is to create our own basis of security, usually formed by intimacy from the inside out, doing our own healing. Jupiter is also slowing down to go retrograde, though, so that makes that square extra potent. And then it's in a T-square with Chiron and Eris, which have just met at the same degree, at 25 degrees Aries, and have been working together over there in the sign of Aries for some time. Now the new moon is staring Chiron and Eris in the face. This is really asking us, have you found, or are you finding, there's always steps in layers and in this process, have you found your core essence? Are you finding your rod of iron, Mars ruled Aries, and are you really discovering your role in looking after yourself first, healing your own wounds, your core identity wounds, so that you can be part of the change you want to see in the world, to bring justice for yourself and others out in the world. But it all starts with you. The sun and moon is saying if you want to bring balance, it starts with your inner balance, really, in Libra. If you think of the scales of Libra, they have that fulcrum in the middle, and without coming into that fulcrum point, balancing your nervous system, balancing your inner self, doing your own work, your own self-growth work, realizing that your soul, your potential in astrology, I would see it as the chart, is a map of your potential, of how you can work with all the energies and come to that center of the chart. That matters in all ways, no matter what kind of techniques for personal growth and awareness and understanding you use. So this T-square is potent, 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 potent. We have the two lights meeting together, the sun and the moon. Jupiter expands it all, and Chiron and Eris say, shake those tables. You know, it's time to heal. Okay. And from the inside out, self first. Now then, a couple of other things I want to talk about. I did mention I would talk about the Venus Ceres Hygeia Pholus Cardinal Grand Cross. Now, I think that is very strong, actually, personally. And this is kind of saying balancing your needs with others' needs to for preventative health and healing, and bringing it through seeing, perhaps taking an inventory of your own actions in the past, not in a, this is like the fourth step in the rooms, if you've ever been in the rooms or know of anybody who's been in the rooms. The fourth step is taking an inventory of going past and making amends. It doesn't, and I'm not talking really about beating yourself up and being, critical, But you know, we've all made mistakes, and we can learn from our mistakes, or we can learn where we could do better again. So that's what I mean by taking the inventory of kind of looking back over things and going, well, you know, I could have been less reactive there. And here's how I can make amends by being less reactive in future, by learning how to count to 5 before I react. Something like that, you know. This I'm not talking like major like punishment inventory or major punishment amends. I am just talking about when we know better, we do better. It's all about awareness. And that's to quote the wonderful Maya Angelou. And then I want to talk about another aspect that's very potent on this new moon. Mars, Mercury, Black Moon, Lilith are all in Scorpio. Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio, our guide, and Mars is our drive, our will, our action. Mercury is our voice, communication, and our mind and our ideas and information we're taking in. Black Moon Lilith is like the wild elemental part of ourselves. Those three are all together in Scorpio, the sign of potent manipulation and power struggles, but also of deep empowerment. How appropriate, and that these are together on this new moon. Now they are meeting. Mars and Mercury are at 20 degrees. Their exact conjunction is right before this new moon. Black Moon Lilith is at 21 degrees just, but I use the true or osculating Black Moon Lilith. So she may, you know, she's probably at 20 degrees just before that new moon. I haven't checked. 2 is the number of the divine feminine. 0 is the number of infinite possibilities. And the divine feminine in all its forms is rising up. But we have the choice to rise up. And when I call it the divine feminine, I mean the energy of compassion, of healing, of love, as well as women. But in the sign of Scorpio, with Mars, Mercury, and Black Moon Lilith there, this shouts to me of women or more feminine nature aligned beings of all genders rising up and saying, no, this is not right. What we're seeing is not right, and we are not going to allow it. Okay, so it's also the sign of death in many ways. Scorpio, it's associated with the death card in the tarot. And that book is being published from beyond the grave, right on that day of the new moon. How powerful is that? So one other couple of things to mention. Pluto is still at 1 degree 22 minutes of Aquarius, still at its station degree, making that very potent. The turnaround, the exact station direct is the 13th in the US, 14th in some places, but it's still at the station point. Pluto digs deep at the station point and saying this is time to dig deep, reveal the shadows, but also to reveal your inner gold so we can co-create the future together, right? Now then, anything else I want to talk about? Just noticed something interesting, but I'm not going to mention that. Well, actually, I am. I'm going to mention it because I think these things pop out, you know, for a reason. So Cariclo, who is spinner of Grace, and she is stationing direct soon, actually, so she's pretty much at her station point, and asteroid Lilith have been working together in Aquarius. Cariclo is spinner of Grace, helping us to heal and holding space for us to weave a new story. Asteroid Lilith has recently stationed direct. She is at 19 degrees. I call her talk to the hand Lilith. She is like saying, no, we're not going back. But they're at 17 and 19, and right in the sign next to them, so that's a semi-sextile. We have the North Node at 17 and Nessus, which is the buck stops here. We've had enough of these abuses of power in our personal lives and collectively. And the fact they're at the same degree, so they're in exact semi-sextiles to each other. This is an aspect. It's an uncomfortable aspect. 30 degrees apart, they can't quite see each other. But I think these four bodies are working together to help us to move towards that state of interconnectedness and say, no, we're not doing this anymore. We are interconnected. Let's all remember that. But how can we play our part in remembering that? It's, this new moon has a lot more to it than it would seem. And I always think of this as planting the seeds, because it's a new moon, of course, but also planting the seeds to Libra being such a co-creative sign. Libra is about, well, we went through all the keywords, we went through the words about relationship and so on and so forth. But you get the idea that this is really about co-creating equity, balance, harmony, and making adjustments, kind of being a little bit more impartial and diplomatic and communicating with the other and starting to co-create this new world together that is coming in. I know it all still seems awful out there and it seems to get worse by the day, but I think again we had to see it to change. And I'm talking about the world, not just in the USA. This is, to quote Heather Ensworth, moving from the power over paradigm to the power from paradigm, realizing that we can all operate from this place of internal power and kind of stay in our lane and not exert our power over others. The dominator culture is on its way out. It really is. It's going to go. I'm sure of it. I've, and I think this new moon is another big step on the way. Over the next few months, particularly, and the next, the rest of this decade, really, the world's going to change in ways we cannot imagine. But on a more collective level, I did read an article the other day that said that solar power, or renewable power at least, is now less expensive than fossil fuel power. So the shift is happening, no matter the resistance, no matter how much the power over paradigm tries to cling onto it. The times are changing and things are changing fast. And I think once this reaches that tipping point, those scales, remember, it's going to change even faster. So that brings me back to some of what I remember about the words of that Edgar Cayce prophecy, which was astounding if it's a true prophecy. But either way, it's in the zeitgeist. It was, saying that, the world will be quiet, the world will be more peaceful, more harmonious if we choose. But if you think about that, renewable energy is so much quieter than others because we'll get rid of the kind of gas-powered engines and have cleaner energy vehicles and so on. Like my husband just traded in his gas leaf blower for an electric one, which is so much more peaceful and I love it. Anyway, let's go to the symbols and then I will look at the cards in full. So I'm actually going to read the Sabian last because it blew my mind away. But they're all amazing. So I'm going to go to John Sandbacher's symbols first. And for Libra 29, because we always go up from the degree, the Omega symbol is in a spiritual text, a person searches for hidden codes. Okay. He says there's a tremendous ability here to look beyond the surface and to penetrate the obvious to find new meanings and insights. What is taken for granted by other people is delved into by this person who may come up with startling new revelations. The question is, will others relate to what is found? Some may, others may scoff at or feel threatened or not understand the new information. This degree needs to just keep looking and not be diverted by others. Okay. Now the Chandra symbol for this degree is servants giving a woman a bath. This degree knows how to take care of others by helping them to rid themselves of whatever is negative, confusing, or burdening. It's always seeking the deeper meaning of everything, just as through careful analysis, the spiritual text of the Omega symbol reveals its deeper meanings. Through a process of purification, the woman of the Chandra symbol, who is on one level the female aspect of God, which the Kabbalah refers to as the Shekinah, is cleansed of whatever is not her true self. That's funny. That's kind of resonates with something. I heard Taylor Swift say in an interview that her friends were saying she has never been more her. But my point is, I'm getting comments from clients like that, and I've been feeling that way. I don't think I've ever felt more me, like my essence, than I have in my life. So I think we're all many of us are starting to feel that. Not saying there's not more that could be done or that will be done, but we're starting to feel cleansed of whatever is not our true selves. This degree does not mind playing the role of servant if it serves a purpose. It likes to work with others and is always willing to rethink anything in the hopes of finding a new perspective on situations or revealing new truth. Okay. And I actually want to read you Elias Lonsdale's interpretation of servants giving a woman a bath. He says, instinctively drawn to be where everything is happening in order to give and receive invaluable energies, feelings, and messages. The outstanding destiny of one who contacts the source of greater cycles and movements. You have your finger on the pulse of epochal change, offering freely what you have gathered along your journey and equally welcoming lavish gifts from others. The budding impulse is toward the new kind of community, towards sisterhood and brotherhood unlimited, sparkling awareness of the cutting edge of evolution and of being somebody on the spot. The convergence of worlds to open a space for the radical unknown to come through, to heal and transform and make a huge difference. Wow, I love that. Now the Sabian. Humanity seeking to bridge knowledge. Oh, okay. James Burgess says this is involvement in humanity's evolution of wisdom. We take from our ancestors and pass to our descendants and thus co-create the flowing and flowering of knowledge. One of the most splendid of human characteristics, this is James Burgess's words, is that we have conscious awareness of an intention to be a living link of the chain that binds past to future, ancestors to descendants. This comes out of our sense of being part of something greater than ourselves, and indeed truly great. This is an aspect of our participation in life and a real guard against the desolation of loneliness that accompanies that power over selfish paradigm, greedy. I'm rewording that a bit at the end because I think healthy selfishness can be really good, but this is about creating that bridge. Wow. Okay, onto the cards. So I'll get my book. So if you remember, first of all, we had some amazing cards. I keep getting some very, very powerful cards right lately. But we had, first card is basically the Fool. In this deck, it's Ariadne, the dancer. This is I am the dance. And I'm just going to read you the quote that is with this card in the book. The only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. That's from Alan Watts. Okay. So then we have the Goddess of Discs, which this book's a little bit confusing for these cards because they've got some misprints. But basically, the Goddess of Discs. This is Bird, and it does have it in here. This is I am listening. Okay. I want to sing like the birds sing, not worrying who hears or what they think, by Rumi. And there's also, it says, these people have learned not from books, but in the fields, in the wood, on the riverbank. Their teachers have been the birds themselves. When they sang to them, the sun, when it left a glow of crimson behind it at setting, the very trees and wild herbs. I don't know if I read that right. I can't quite see the words. But this is about trusting. This is about the birds are a link between the earthly world and the spiritual world, and they are the bringers of news. This reminds me of listening to these spiritual texts, but it might not be literal texts that are written down. It might be what the trees tell you and what the birds tell you, right? This is saying trust her, this goddess, for her wings will be always there for you to take respite under. Wrap yourself in nature, walk and gaze up at the birds, look for her and listen to her songs. Okay. Then the last card, we got the Four, which is the Tower in a lot of tarot decks, but we got it upside down. So this is I am falling, but we're falling in reverse, okay? Oh, that keeps coming up for me. I literally saw 2 t-shirts in a website I was looking at saying falling in reverse this morning. We are being given a major opportunity to fly and to fall in reverse and to be the best of what humanity has the potential to be here. And it takes one person at a time. And I am really still hopeful because people are starting to wake up. And I think, really as kind of conscious people who have awareness of these bigger cycles, I don't mean to say that we are any better than anybody else. Maybe we've just been a little bit further ahead and of looking at what's happening in the world. We have to encourage people and lift people up. And it's beyond the real mundane between parties and what's happening with this oligarch and this oligarch. This is a real big picture. This is a huge expansion of human consciousness. I've said that before, and really I probably would encourage you to go and read about this or listen to this video about Edgar Cayce that he posted, and it's kind of crazy. So I love you. I still think we're going to be better than okay because I see people waking up all the time or becoming more aware, let's say. Love you.